made the ITV news. It made like news at 10 and all that kind of stuff. They were out to smash it. They really were. They still had all of the police squads in place, all the riot squads in place from the coal mining strikes. Indeed. Who'd done all of this training to squash events like this. I don't say it lightly. It was completely lawless, for a while. And there was certainly for a while there was more of us than there was of them. As soon as I got out, quite a few opportunities started to come my way as a result of being the guy that got locked up for acid house. So he went to jail for it. Ian, who I wrote it with, he is the most massive joker that I know. Like proper practical joker. And my phone went, and it was a private number. Back in those days, you could withhold your number or have a private number, and it came up with a private number. The only person that I knew who had a private number was Ian. I answered it, and I said, "What do you want?" And this guy says, "It's Pete Tong here. I'm calling about Quake. The day will come." I actually said, "Blandy, stop winding me up. You're being ridiculous." And then he said, "No, it's Pete Tong." He said, "I've not got my radio voice on. I'm in the car, and I'm calling you about the day will come." And I was like, "Oh my God, I think he is. I think he's actually Pete Tong." Were you, Dex? You all right?
Part two.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Sorry, we rambled on so much last time. We've had to do a part two, but I'm very much looking forward to speaking to you today.
I think it wasn't necessarily a rambling. It was like a discovery call.
Yeah, it was indeed.
I had no idea. Yeah. I mean, I had no idea about your pre-1991 history. None at all. and so we left it on the topic of prison. Do you remember?
Yes.
That's exactly where we left it. Now, obviously, that was because of what happened at the rave and what you shouldn't have done. Did that get that press any press at all that you were jailed for that?
Yeah. I mean, it was it was front page, certainly front page local news here, but also. It was. It made the ITV news. It made like news at 10 and all that kind of stuff.
I imagine it did, because at that time, anything like that was front page, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely.
They were really trying to squash it.
They were out to smash it. They really were. They still had all of the squads all the police squads in place, all the riot squads in place, from the coal mining strikes. Indeed. From all those years ago, from the mid 80s. So they still had all of those people on standby who'd done all of this training to squash events like this, and it was. I don't say it lightly. It was completely lawless, for a while. And there was certainly for a while there was more of us than there was of them. With the Blackburn raves, because I told you that I think where we left it last time, I told you that I'd been to all the stuff down south, to the sunrise parties and the Back to the Futures and all the stuff on the M25 and lots and lots of stuff, up and down the country. So I'd done all of that, and then when I came up to the north and started doing stuff up here, they grew from sort of 1 week having 300 people in to the next week having 500, the next week having 700. And then it just went mental. And it got to the point where every week they were getting, the best part of 5,000 people, sometimes even more, sometimes up to like 7,000 people turning up at these warehouses and doing convoys and doing some pretty crazy stuff where, it's almost like, it feels like a dream, and yet I know it's not a dream because I've spoken to that many people about it, where we would all go in our cars, exactly the thing that you hear about that people try to replicate now, where you phone this number and all meet at the service station, or at the local bus station, or at various locations, and then everybody go en masse together to the one location. So they were kind of trying to pick these venues so that they would be just off the motorways. And sometimes what was happening was you'd have three lanes of traffic going in one direction, but then people would join on the other side of the motorway as well, and they would also be going in the same direction. So you'd have 6 lanes all going in one direction, and then the police would have to block the motor. Yeah, true story. Yeah, and the police would have to block the motorway off further along, like 5 miles up, like cordon the motorway off so that there wasn't cars running into each other. It was absolutely crazy. And then everybody hanging out their sunroofs, in hooded tops, listening to acid house, and and the thing is as well, the music back then, it wasn't all like super serious. There was lots of like Italian house and just like full on party tracks. Just great fun, really.
I've never heard that about the motorways. I've been in some convoys, but I've never seen anything quite like that. And
yeah, on the M65 near Blackburn. Now the thing is as well, that was a brand new motorway at the time, so it wasn't something. It was a bit like in England. There's the M6 toll road,
yes,
and nobody really uses it because the toll road costs
a
like
fortune. Yeah.
10 quid to go on the toll road
to save you half hour.
Just to save you a little sort of cut a corner off around Birmingham. But the M65 was kind of a brand new road, and so therefore it wasn't it wasn't greatly populated at the time. But that's exactly what they had to do, was block the motorway off so that we could just go down. All of us go down one junction with 6 lanes of traffic going to the warehouse. Mental times, mate. Absolutely mental times.
I mentioned to you in the last podcast, my dad used to be involved in those rave lines with the cards.
Yes,
and he used to have roach lines in them. Where and all of that, and I remember that was because my dad had a big warehouse and he was involved in that stuff. But yeah, he actually operated like the 0898 numbers, and that's how far these rave lines went. And when people used to ring up to find out where the raves were, he was making £1 on every call.
Brilliant.
But that was, I don't know what year that was now, but I remember he was really into his 0898 numbers back in the day, all those dirty lines and yeah.
Oh, I know. There's a guy who's made a fortune out of that.
There was good money in it. There was
a couple of people who've made a lot of money out of that.
There was serious money involved with it back in the day, and it was like a lot of the crooks were involved with that side of it. And my dad he said, well, we're doing that. Well, let's do the rave line as well. And I don't think it worked that well, to be honest, but I know the other lines did.
I'm sure the other lines subsidized it quite nicely.
Yes.
I mean, the funny thing is that we are pretty much 1 week away from it being the 35th anniversary of the party that I got put inside for, which is called the Love Decade, and that party was actually not in Blackburn. That was the first party after the police smashed it and stopped the parties in Blackburn and the surrounding areas, and managed to actually gain control of that territory. Then the guys who I'm still working with now, we do some events in not far from Blackburn called High on Hope. With a guy called Don Barton Tommy, who, funny enough, is from Dumbarton originally, and him and his family, they moved down to Blackburn probably in the 70s, I would have thought, and those guys ran that town, and then some of those guys they decided to come and do parties in Leeds, and that's where I'd moved to. I was living in Leeds, and that's how I ended up getting involved in that particular party, was by my association with them in Blackburn. And then they knew I lived in Leeds, and they were like, listen, we're going to do this party in Leeds, do you want to come and do it? I went along and did it, and then the rest, it is history. It's in the other podcast.
What were you thinking about, like, when you were in jail? Were you like, because I remember we left it on, you were like, right, I've got to really sort myself out now. I mean, you did what, 90 days? Is it 3 months?
I did 3 months. Yeah, I did.
Long enough.
3 months. in Armley. It's a proper prison.
Yeah.
It's a Victorian jail. It's just like being in Porridge, you know.
My dad was in
you know.
Brixton, Wandsworth, all of those. I visited all of them.
Right. Well, it's easily on par with any of them. Trust me on that. It really is. It's not very pleasant.
I was a very, very frequent visitor to all of those.
Right. And not nice.
The weirdest prison I went to was Ford Open Prison, which is down in Chichester.
All right.
And that was
on the way down south.
Back in the day when you were arrested for like fraud and you were doing like one of those sort of crimes. It was like like white collar crimes as such.
Okay.
Or well behaved, or you come into the end of a long sentence, they'd send you.
Yes.
Send you here.
Yeah.
And he went there, but it had a fence on the front. And my dad used to say, but if you go around the back, there's no fence. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, oh, it's just there so the public feel like they're
safe.
The prisoners are in there because they used to
being contained.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't called escaping. They were like absconding if you didn't come back after your day, because they used to go and work in the local areas and stuff. So it was kind of your pre-release prison, or if you're
I got you. Like I suppose they call that an open prison,
that's what it is. I was there a lot. I've got some funny stories about that, but that's for another day. But
this was definitely not an open prison. Unfortunately,
so
two blokes in a with bunk beds and no toilet, a bucket. Very unpleasant, mate. Very unpleasant. You hear people say things like you need to slop out. Well, that's what it was like, unfortunately. It was no bed of roses. It really wasn't.
What did you do when you got out? What was the first thing you did?
Well, the first thing I did was phone my parents because the thing is that I'd tried to make it seem like I'd just gone on holiday for a while. Because the thing is that very, very sadly, my mum passed away not that long ago. But I didn't want to upset her, I just didn't want to upset her, I didn't want to worry her because I knew I could handle it. I'm sure I might have said in the previous podcast, I was in the RAF for a while. So for me, it wasn't any different not that it wasn't any different, but it was very similar in terms of you were institutionalized, so from being in the RAF and knowing what discipline was all about and having to get up at stupid o'clock and go running and all the rest of it, when you do your basic training, it gave me something that allowed me to cope with being in prison all right, and the banter and all that kind of stuff. The thing is with from being a southerner who lives in the north, I've had to learn that you have to have some savage bants. You've got to be able to hold your own. So when people were challenging you about anything, you just got to give it back to them, and then they sort of respect you more for it.
That's what my dad always said.
That's kind of how it was. Having said that, you have to kind of get the measure of that just in case you get slashed, of course.
Yeah, no, my dad always used to say he always used to chin someone when he got in there just to make sure that they knew that he weren't to be fucked with.
You're gonna be able to hold your own.
Yeah, and that was back in the day when obviously prison was prison. It was hard.
It was proper, mate. It was proper. Honestly, I don't want to make too light of it. The thing is, it definitely taught me a huge life lesson. Like I say, the first thing I did, phone my parents, and then the first thing they said to me was, "Right, okay, what are you going to do? You're going to need to. What are you going to do? You're going to carry this on, or you're gonna get a proper job,
Yeah.
And I said, well, look, it is a proper job, and I'm gonna make it work. I will make it work. And because of what had happened, some of the people that I was involved with in those parties gave me some breaks, because that particular incident was the forerunner. That was the thing that actually established. Have you heard of the criminal justice bill?
Yes, of course. Of course I have. Yes, very familiar with it.
So that is what that particular incident that was the test bed case for the criminal justice bill, and the criminal justice bill was put together by a guy, an MP called Graham Bright, and Graham Bright came to my trial, which was
Bless him.
yeah, he came to the trial, sat with the prosecutors, and I could see him, see him there, like saying, "He's gonna go down, he's gonna go down." I could see that that's what they were thinking. Well, I could see that that's what was going to
Bit of
happen.
a
And
show trial, really.
yeah, it really was, because they wanted to break it, and they did break it.
Yes, they
But
did. Yeah.
out of the back of breaking it, what they, breaking the spirit of the acid house, what they did do was it then allowed things to become legal.
Yeah.
And when it became legal, it meant that clubs started to get longer licenses, because the whole issue was that all clubbing finished at 2 a.m. and everybody wanted to party all night long. But so what they started to do was give at least one or two clubs a 4 a.m. license, and then some of them they were giving them 6 a.m.
Yeah.
licenses. So Back to Basics in Leeds had a 6 a.m. license, and then the Gallery, which I was resident for in Leeds, which is like a legendary club in Leeds, that I used to do with a guy called Steve Luigi, who's still around now, and he was involved in all the Wigan Casino days and on all the Northern Soul stuff, and then he became a rave DJ, and he at that very time he started a club called the Gallery, and the Gallery had a 4 a.m. license, and then we were booking Slipmatt and Lime and the Prodigy, and
Crazy.
yeah, Prodigy were brand new. They were like, this is getting now towards 90, the back end of 91 and the beginning of 92.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I was going to get into now. Like, what happened next after?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So this is So as soon as I got out, quite a few opportunities started to come my way as a result of being the guy that got locked up for acid house. So he went to jail for it. So then it became a thing where people wanted to come and see you because of that. Which gave me a bit of
infamy.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, when I was doing stuff like it was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of experience. So I was doing a bar in Leeds on a Thursday where when we first started it, we were getting 30 people in, and then after a few weeks we were getting like 500 people, where you just couldn't get any more people in this bar.
It exploded, didn't it? I mean, I saw in the early 90s some small club bars with crazy licenses, and they went from being tiny to serious operations, literally in the space of a year.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And clubs like the Luminar Leisure Group and what have you, they owned a lot of those kind of venues as well, and they wanted in on it. So they had things like Mr. Smith's in Warrington, and like I say, the Gallery in Leeds was a huge concern, and it used to be called Mr. Craig's. So it was, they were in the 80s, they were a bit like Stringfellows come, like Chippenham Gold Diggers, those kind of clubs, where they've got the big lighting rigs in them and everything. And they all wanted a piece of it. Same with Angels in Burnley as well. That was a huge club up this way as well.
I've heard a lot about that place. I never went, obviously.
So Paul Taylor. That's where Paul Taylor from Retro comes from. That's his baby. And again, like Paul Taylor put me on there. And then out of the back of that, there was a thing in Leeds called Arc, which was a really, really great club, which became it was a kind of a forerunner to Gatecrasher in some respects, and we would book. So I was involved with those guys, and they used to ask me, who to book, and so we used to get a smorgasbord of the best artists playing, including Carl Cox and Express 2
for peanuts.
For a lot cheaper than they are now, that's for sure. And Slipmatt and all those kind of people were all coming up and playing for us. Tony V played for us. So that was a few years later, but initially, like 91, 92, in fact, 92 onwards, Arc was it was at the Leeds University, and we would get 2,500 people every time we did it we did it once a month, and it was mobbed. It was ridiculous. It was amazing. And like I say, those are the sort of people that we were booking. And as a result of that, that's the first time that we heard myself and everybody that was there, including the other resident DJ, who's another kind of like legendary character from up here called Mark Leaf. We brought our turntables to this club. We set 3 turntables up for the master to come along and play, for Carl Cox to come and play, and he came along, and there was some amazing life lessons learned that night, in as much as I was on just before him, and he appeared, and he had that same smile on his face that you see now, and he came in, and he was just like, "Hello, mate. How are you? I'm Carl." I was like, "I'm DJ Rob." I wasn't even Rob Tissera then. I was just DJ Rob, and he was like, "Right, okay, right, you skin up for me and I'll play records." and he got all of the records. So he had one of those record boxes, it was like a vinyl box that you opened up, and the top came off it.
Yep.
It actually separated.
Yes. Yep.
And he put and what he did was he took all the records, all the records out of the sleeves, and put them into one half of the box, and then he was just playing on 3 turntables, so he didn't want to have to take them out of the sleeves and put them on. And then he had his mate with him, who I think still works with him now, a guy called Phil Rose. And after he'd finished playing the track, then Phil would put the tracks back in the sleeves and put them back in the box for him. And he was just like playing breakbeat stuff, including all the SL2 stuff and Blap's Posse, and just like these ridiculous records that we had never heard anything quite like this sound, because it was like broken beat, which wasn't a thing really back then. It was all kind of 4/4. So to hear somebody playing this stuff, it was a bit more funky for us, because it wasn't fast at the beginning. Hardcore only became, breakbeat hardcore only became faster as time went on, but it was more like 130 BPM. And it just sounded great at that pace. That kind of music, with the sort of busier beat in it, just sounded amazing, and the crowd were loving it. And then myself and Mark, we were just like, right, that's it. We want to play breakbeat now. That's it. We want to do that. And that's what I did for a couple of years, probably about 3 years or so. I was very much like involved in sort of, the bringing the breakbeat scene to the hardcore breakbeat scene to Leeds, with Arc. And it was fantastic, playing all the Bomb Scare, Too Bad Mice, and all them kind of records, that's kind of what I did for a few years. And then out of the back of that, the music started to get a little less well produced. I tend to, and the thing is, this isn't. I'm not casting any aspersions on that particular genre of music. This is what happens with all genres of music. I find is that it starts off with real quality made by people who are the innovators. Then you get another set of people who can make music that's a little bit like that, and then on the third wave, you get a bit of dross going on, where you get, I hate to say it, but you start to get
it's perfectly logical, isn't it? Because this is a business of copycats. Everyone copies
100%.
Everyone, from events to DJ styles to fads to fashion to everything is copied. Like, look at all the arguments over certain tunes you get at the moment. Literally, they're the same as other people's tracks.
But there's only 12 notes on the keyboard, aren't there? That's the thing, isn't it? But certainly, I tend to, I felt that just for a while it started to get a little less in the way of quality, and at the very same time, there was some great house music coming through, and at the same time there was progressive house coming through as well. Original progressive house, Left Field, and Hard Hands, and all those kind of labels that were doing that kind of sound with real quality. The more, even Sasha and company were that's really when they started to do all the, that was the build up to Venue 44, Renaissance, and all that
Wow.
kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
And we were also as a brand with Arc, we were very tuned into knowing what to do next. So we could see that there were certain artists that we needed to start booking. Dave Seaman and Ian Ossia, and some more progressive house type people. And I kind of loved that sound, and I did sort of dip my toe in that water for a short time, but then it got a bit serious for me, that sort of music. So then I've just thought, you know what, I just want to be involved in more sort of party-ish sort of house music, and you know,
The fun side
not
of it.
the fun side
Yeah.
of it. Yeah,
I'm very much like
and
that.
that's and then you tended to find that then out of the back of say 1993 came 1994, 1995 was Hardbag, Tony DeVee, Blue Peter, Mrs. Woods,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
Reactivate
Yeah. Oh,
labels,
amazing. Amazing. Yeah. All vinyl that
yeah,
I had.
yeah, that all started to happen, and when that started to happen, I started to get really quite sort of turned on by that kind of sound.
I
Really,
love it.
it's just
I love
it's just a progression. It's
Yeah.
just and I still do it now, and I've kind of done it all the way through my career. Give me a box of tracks. Don't matter what they are. Give me a short amount of time, and I'll fathom out what the science behind it, and I'll crack on and I'll play it, because it's about entertaining people. It's about making people happy, and making keeping current and all the rest of it. And I kind of love that sort of sound. And Tony as well, when he came along. Sorry, if I could just backtrack actually to the Carl Cox thing. When Carl came and did that, what it taught me, and also when I met Tony DeVee as well for the first time as well, what meeting those guys taught me was always be gracious and polite. Always be gracious and polite. Don't ever forget your manners. Don't ever forget where you come from, because they're not born with silver spoons in their mouths, and you don't forget, and neither am I. I'm from a council estate in Milton Keynes, and never get above your station, and don't be rude to people, and just like I say, always be gracious and polite. And I always thought to
Respectful.
myself,
Just
absolutely.
that's
And when people are queuing up to speak to these guys, and they would say, "Excuse me for a second, I just need to speak to these guys," and then they would speak to them, and then they'd come back and speak to somebody, and then there'd be a queue of people waiting to speak to Tony. In particular, I've been to several places, because I'll tell you some other funny stories in a second. In fact, on that front. So we're getting into the sort of the Tony DeVee
well,
era,
that's
sort
the
of,
era
not,
that I that I felt. I was going to a lot of house clubs in the 90s,
yeah,
but
yeah,
when I was going record shopping, I found myself coming home with a lot of the harder stuff. And
yeah,
I remember a lot of the house clubs that I went to, especially in London, they didn't just play one genre of house.
yeah.
It
It
got
progressed, didn't it?
harder and
Yeah, went
harder and
on.
harder. But
Yeah.
so when you got there, it was quite mild. Then it was funky. Then it was and then it ended on 2 hours of absolutely slamming harder
Which was
stuff.
great. I loved all that,
Yeah,
mate. I
and
loved
so
all
when I was
that.
record
Yeah.
shopping, I ended up going to Chris Martin's shop in Watford, PUP Records, and he used to close the night at Strawberry Sundays at the time, but he was into the harder stuff. And I just generally found myself coming back with all this hard. It wasn't even called hard house, I don't think. It was just
No, it was like energy, I
yeah,
suppose.
new energy
Hard
and
bag,
stuff like that.
new energy, yeah. I was kind of like turned on by that sort of sound, but then on top of that, then you were starting to get a few records coming through, like Jens, Loops and Tings, like the original versions of that record, where you're hearing some stuff that then they're marrying trance to it, which was a kind of like a new thing as well.
Yeah,
And I think we might have touched on this before in the last podcast. I'm a musician, so I've played the bass for years. I can play some keys and all that sort of stuff. And as a result of that, then I'm thinking, wow, right, okay, now this hard sound's got some like
melody.
emotion. It's got
Yeah.
some emotion to it, and it's got this extra kind of like layer of like beautiful stuff happening. And then I started to sort of dip my toe into playing even Energy 52 from not far off those kind of times. You know, I think the original. Sure, the original goes all the way back to like about
Well, I spoke
94,
to Judge
93.
Jules about this the other day because I bought my first copy of Energy 52 in Croydon in Swag Records, and
Mm,
I think it was from Clara da Costa because she worked
yeah,
there. Because it was a
yeah.
young, I remember it to this day. I went there with a guy called Nigel, and I just put this. They remember they used to say, "Oh, listen to this track that you would like this
Oh,
all the time," you know.
100%. Yeah,
But it
yeah,
was a
yeah, yeah.
young girl. It was a young girl that gave it to me, and I just put it on, and I went, "Nice, listen to this." Yeah, it was on the and we asked her. He goes, "Have you got another copy of that?" And she went,
Yeah.
"No, that's the last one." And I remember, I'm having that, you know. Uh, and then I met Clara and realised that in Ibiza, and it
Yeah.
must have been her because it
It
was
must have been her, yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah, yeah.
I was talking to Jules about Energy 52 the other day, and he said that was one of the tracks that he found himself humming on the way back home, and he didn't really usually do that with tracks. He was like, there's something special about this one."
Oh,
So
yeah,
yeah.
that it was a piece of magic, you know, and there was a lot of other records like that as well, you know, coming through. Not as good as that, but there was definitely some stuff that was on like Noom Records
Yeah.
and Sour Mash and you know, on that Prolocult label. There was some
Yes, yeah,
absolute
yeah, yeah. God.
beasts from Zoom Records. So I used to go down there and you
Chronicle.
know,
Sorry, I'm having
yeah,
flashbacks
Chronicle.
here because
Yeah,
my
yeah.
vinyl got stolen. Uh,
Did it? Oh, yeah, nightmare.
I can't remember who I was speaking to the other day, but there was a spate in the 90s of people's getting their records stolen,
Mm,
especially in London,
mm.
and because they're worth a lot of money, you know. And if you had a
Yeah,
big collection, I lost everything. But that was the instigator for me to get the
yeah.
fuck out of London,
Right.
and the next April I was in Ibiza.
Okay.
And
Gotcha. Yeah.
that is when I met
Yeah.
Dermot and Alex at Nightlife,
Yeah.
and they introduced me to trance. So
Yes.
I went
Yeah.
over. I bought a few records before I left, but I took Hard House with me to
Right.
Ibiza,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it wasn't Hard House in Ibiza. It was trance,
It was
and they were
trance.
like,
Yeah. So I suppose
this
so
won't
that'd be
work
like
here."
98.
Yeah, they were like, "This won't work here." And I was just like, and then I was working in Nightlife, and then Alex Ellinger obviously created Sweet Dreams, but it was just banging trance all the way through, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Wow, I love
Yeah.
this." And Matt Slipmatt was coming down on the Wednesdays, and
Yeah.
so that was my introduction to trance. But I was very much hard house, and
Right.
I still
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
Vicky Devine saying, "You're still into that hard stuff, are you?" You know, and I remember because when I first met her in very early 2000s, she was playing trance. And I think I was playing in Nightlife one day, just when it was a quiet day. I was playing some hard house, and she walked in, and I was like, "Oh, yep, he's still playing it." Good times, good times, great
Yeah.
music and great
Well,
labels.
I kind of eventually got to the hard house. I think prior to that, I kind of like, yeah, from sort of 96, I was still doing quite a lot of yeah, house stuff.
Yeah,
In fact, I kind of like you know, the next thing that happened that kind of really was a, you know, I think you're, you know, certainly with my career, it's kind of gone in chapters, and the next chapter for me was from 95 to sort of 98 was a chapter where I was involved. I made a track with Ian Bland, who's been one of my writing partners from Dream Frequency. He's been one of my writing partners for since 91. I met him at a rave in 91, and I don't know whether I was foolish enough or brave enough to say to him, "I love your music, mate, but it's not very mixable. You know, you don't put
the
beats at the beginning
beginning
and
is
the
like
end,
very airy fairy, was it?
and even though they're awesome, how do you mix those records?" And then
Platypus were a bit like that, if I remember. But
yeah, they
Platypus,
were.
yeah, they were very,
Yeah, big intro
yeah,
type thing, and
yeah.
they're awesome. But it means you've either got to start or finish with it, and if you did, if it's not appropriate to start with it, you may not play it. So therefore, I just said to him, "Look, I think they should be a bit more mixable." And he said, "Well," at first he was a little bit offended, but then he was like, "Oh, give me a call." We exchanged phone numbers, and he give me a call. In those days, it was like landlines. He
Yeah,
called
yeah,
me on
yeah.
the old landline, and said, "Look, why don't you come over to the studio sometime and just like talk me through that process, and maybe we can do a track." And then we sort of, we did a few tracks together, and I end up remixing a few things with him, including Asher JJ Tribute, which was done at the Eastern Bloc Studios in Manchester. In fact, it was the PWL studios, so it's Pete Waterman's studio.
Wow.
Yeah, and we remixed Asher, like the official thing on Disco Magic. And we kind of like did kind of like a forerunner to. We did a few things that were really a forerunner to trance, I think. But out of working with him, I did this track called "Kick Up the Volume," which Nick Hawkes, who now manages the Prodigy and Chase and Status and XL Records and all that kind of stuff. He heard this track, this "Kick Up the Volume" record, and he was like, "Oh, I want to sign that record," and he signed it. And Ian did a remix of it as Dancing Divas. He was Dancing Divas, who did "I Love You, Baby" and "Three is Family" and Dana, Judy Cheek's "Reach" and all those kind of tracks, and they did a remix of this "Kick Up the Volume" record that I did, and then Jules heard it, and he was doing Kiss at the time, and Kiss was a massive deal. Not that it's not a massive deal now, but it was a big,
Yeah.
big. It just gone legal, it'd
The
gone
first
from
one,
being
wasn't it?
illegal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it was the first
It was a
legal
big
dance
thing as well
station.
when it went legal, wasn't it?
Massive,
Everyone was like,
massive.
"Kiss has gone legal. Wow," and
Oh, it's massive,
yeah, I
massive,
remember it
and
was a really
he
big deal. Yeah,
yeah, and he used to do judging the jury, so he'd get a panel of people on, and they'd like critique the records, and they put my track on, and it ended up winning that week, and then it ended up going to like number one. There was two charts. There was the dance chart and there was the national chart. But there was like a national dance chart, and it ended up going to number one. Kick Up the Volume did, and as a result of that, I started getting phone calls from people in Australia saying, "Do you want to come and play? Do you want to come and play in Sydney?" I'm like,
wow.
"What? Really?" They're like, "Yeah, come over." And that was really a huge launcher for me. It was an absolute launch pad. It was a game changer. And I always say to people, if you want to really make a lot of difference in your life, you need to get in the studio and make some music, and invest some money
You've
in
got to be
in
creative, and I think that
you.
is that
I
you've got
think
to
you've
be.
got to be.
I think that is such a big lesson for people today as well.
Yeah,
You've got to be creative in whatever you do, whether it's
yeah.
music or whether it's YouTube or whether it's videos or you just got to keep on pushing and pushing and
You've
pushing.
yeah, you've got to
Yeah,
you've got to push the envelope, and
you
and
have
and
to.
and as a result of it, that particular track, it launched us into a different stratosphere, to be honest, because then I was just playing all over the world. And the first time I went over to Sydney, I always remember this as being such a moment. I landed there, and when you get there, and I'd never been before, and I would have been 32 then, maybe 31, somewhere around there. And I know, listen, I'm old, but
You still
yeah,
look very young, mate. Don't worry.
I don't know how. I have no idea. So thank you for that. But certainly, I landed there, and you're full of the joys of spring, aren't you, when you're that age? And I arrived, and it was night time there when I got there, and they put me up. The beautiful people, Mal and Michelle Russell, and a guy called Rob Milton, who I'm still friends with to this day, and they still do stuff down in Sydney. A brand called Delicious. They're the people who booked us. They're QPR fans.
Okay.
QPR and Spurs fans. They're from over here, and then they've gone and lived over there. And I went over, and they dropped me off at this beautiful apartment on Bondi Beach. I opened the curtains, and I'm like, I'm on Bondi. I'm like, gee, that view. I'm like, I am properly living the life here. This is amazing. And I couldn't sleep, of course. So I was like, right, you know what? I'm going to go out. I need to find wherever the action is. So I hailed a cab and said, right, just take me to like where it's happening. So they took me to King's Cross down there, which is like, it's hustle and bustle. It's where all the students go. It's where all the bars are happening, and it's also kind of like their crazy bloody red light district. It's a mental place, and I ended up going down there, and the cab dropped me off. And I'm walking down this row of bars, and they've all got sort of speakers outside the bars, and the bouncers are outside. And I'm walking along, and I'm thinking, what's that? I'm like, that's my track. It's my track. And there's all these people in this bar going crackers to this track. And I'm like, oh my God, they're playing my record. Which is such a, it still makes me emotional now to think about that. And then I walked a bit further along, and they were playing it at the next bar as well. I was like, what the fuck? They're playing my record. It's a beautiful moment, and it will always live with me. And yeah, that is the power of making music. It's, and then later that week I'm playing my own tune in Delicious, and people are going nuts to it. It's quite a thing. It's quite a feeling. It really is.
And you
quite
never
a feeling.
know when you're making something how well it's going to go. And
certainly didn't know that was going to happen,
because even like just making social media posts and stuff, it was always the things that you never think that will go viral.
Yeah, congratulations, by the way. Yeah, I know it's absolutely flying along, isn't it?
Yeah, today we got a notification that we've done 25,000 hours on our YouTube.
That's amazing.
And I was like, but the views may look modest, but it's people are just watching the whole bloody podcast.
Yeah.
So the hours are cranking up, and so I'm really blessed and honoured that people are sticking to this, because the algorithm's still trying to figure us out, I think, because we're a new channel, and I've got some great guests already I've spoken to, and a great guest tomorrow morning, which is completely different from she's not a well-known person. She's an ex-worker who has gone from being working in Ibiza to being in recovery, who's now today come out as a drug and alcohol prescribing nurse. So she now looks after people in recovery, in prisons and stuff like that. So we've got her on as a journey from being an alcoholic, partying in Ibiza, all the way through to now being
actually being
360,
managing on the other side. Yeah,
but she's partners with the Dirty Rottens. So you've probably met her before, Emelina.
Yes, of course,
Emelina.
absolutely,
So we're trying to cover all aspects of the industry, because it has got some dark sides as well.
Of course it does.
But I don't really want to go into like the whole the nasty areas. But I think the drug and alcohol thing, I think we will touch on, because I think that's important. Because
I think you know what, anything in moderation, with the exception of the real nasty stuff, I think you just have to moderate that kind of behavior, don't you? That's the thing, and don't let it get the better of you.
Some people can't, you see, and I found that when a lot of people left Ibiza, who lived there all year round, when they come home, they really struggled. It was like being institutionalized to Ibiza. And when they got, because I know when I got back to England, I was like, I'm not like the rest of these people, and I was like, and Emma was the same, and we really struggled to fit in. But the one common denominator was alcohol. We had to have a drink. Whereas when we were drinking in Ibiza in the morning or in the afternoon or all day, every day, even after the gym,
I suppose it doesn't feel that odd, does it, when you're over there? It doesn't
it's
really
not,
feel
especially
that
when
odd.
you're going for lunch in the winter and you're on the building site, and you will literally have 2 bottles of wine, a beer, and you'll go back and you'll just have a fuzzy afternoon on a building site. And you can see why a lot of the buildings in Spain are so wonky,
or completely unfinished as well.
But going back, I mean let's talk about Ibiza, Sorry, oh, you
Yeah,
just spoken.
yeah, yeah.
Have you finished with your? That's an amazing Australian memory.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So I'm kind of like building into the Ibiza
Yeah, yeah.
thing.
Please continue.
From there. So that would have been like 96, and then into 97. And then myself and Ian, even though I'd done that particular track with a massive slice of help from those guys, from him and Nick from Dancing Divas, a huge slice of their creativity as well on that track. But it was under my name, and it just blew. It's one of those things. But then out of that, we still kept on exploring our love of the trance side of things, which was beginning to grow. Come 97, 98, it was definitely beginning to take off a little bit. And what I'd noticed was with some of the trance stuff, there wasn't very much stuff that had like a real big vocals, with the exception of Matt Derry with Marcella Woods.
Yes, yes.
The stuff that he did with her was enormous, and I loved that marriage of the kind of like the soulful vocal with the trance. So we went away and we created this track called Quake, The Day
Yeah,
Will Come.
very familiar with it.
Yeah, and that track again was one of those things where it opened a new door, a new chapter, where it again just took off. And the funny thing about that track is that Ian, who I wrote it with, he is the most massive joker that I know. Like proper practical joker. And he sorry, I was in a bar in Leeds in 1998, and it was like a Thursday afternoon. Like back in those times, it was pretty crazy times, and that's exactly how it was. I'd be in a bar on a Thursday
Of
afternoon,
course,
and
normal.
and my phone went, and it was a private number. Back in those days, you could withhold your number or have a private number, and it came up with a private number. The only person that I knew who had a private number was Ian, and I saw the private number come up, so I thought, it's Blandy, it's Ian. So I answered it, and I said, "What do you want?" And he said, "Is that Rob? Is that Rob Tissera?" I said, "Yeah." And this guy says, "It's Pete Tong here. I'm calling about Quake, The Day Will Come." And I just said,
It's coming.
yeah. I just said, "Fucking do one, Blandy. You what? I actually said, fuck off, Blandy. Stop winding me up. You're being ridiculous." And then he said, "No, it's Pete Tong." He said, "I've not got my radio voice on. I'm in the car, and I'm calling you about Day Will Come." And I was like, "Oh my God, I think he is. I think he's actually Pete Tong." So I had to step out of the bar, and then he said, "Look, I want to sign that record." It'd been played to him by a guy who we knew very well called Phil Faversham, who used to do he used to do all the A&R stuff for FFRR.
Another familiar name.
For London Records, basically. And he'd heard this record, and he'd played it to Pete Tong. He'd actually heard it at Sunday Central when we first started doing Sunday Central way back in the day. And he was like, "Look, we'll give you 25 grand for it now." I was like, what? So I said, "Look, I need to speak to my partner about it. I'll call you back. Give us your number." And he gave us his number, and I didn't even call Blandy. I just I just thought I was just gonna put the phone down and then pick it back up and go, "Yeah, go on, then we'll do it." Which is exactly what I did. And sorry, Pete, if you're watching this.
I hope he is.
So it got signed to FFRR, to London Records, and then went into the top 40. And then as a result of that, at that very time, he was procuring the music for Human Traffic, the film Human Traffic. And they asked us to do 3 tracks on the original soundtrack for Human Traffic. So it gave us the opportunity to have music on that original track, on that original film, which was an amazing experience, you know. And we got to meet Danny Dyer and all those guys, and go to the premiere and everything. And yeah, we've got 3 tracks on there. You know, the one where it goes, "Reach for the lasers, safe as fuck."
Yeah,
That's our track playing in the
no way.
background.
Wow.
Yeah, and where Jip gets really paranoid, there's like a dark, acidy techno track. That's one of ours as well. And when they first get in the club and they're all dancing, when they've met Carl Cox, you know, when he's a club owner, that's our track playing in the background of that. So that was a huge moment for us. And then out of the back of that started to get us remixes, and then we started doing remixes for we did York, The Awakening, and I think it sold like 250,000 copies pre-sale. Crazy amount of records based on our remix, and then we remixed Armin Communication for AM/PM, and that went to number 11 in the national charts, and that just started another wave of stuff happening, and getting more gigs on the trance front, and doing stuff with God's Kitchen, and coming out to Ibiza to do God's Kitchen out there at Amnesia.
Yeah.
And it also introduced me to Dave Pearce, and Dave Pearce asked me to be resident at Eden. And
Euphoria. Was it Euphoria?
It was I think it was actually Dave Pearce Dance Anthems to begin with, and then it became Euphoria after that.
Tidy was over the road as well.
Yeah, that was like a few years later.
Yeah.
Right, I think this was the first season that Dave did Dance Anthems out there, which would have been 98. And then out of the back of that, then that gave me the opportunity to do stuff at the they used to do the Radio 1 on a Sunday, didn't they? At the Windmill.
Yes.
In Ibiza.
Yeah.
And I did live on Radio 1 as a result of the Quake stuff.
That was an amazing day.
Beautiful time.
It's really strange because I spoke to Jules about this last week, because he played as well. And he did the top 5 ever tracks of all time. He couldn't remember what he played, but I can remember it because they did a countdown, and there was Yeke Yeke, and there was Energy 52.
Yeah.
The sun was dropping down. Avier from Mambo's had his boat with the lasers coming off of it in the back. And it was just, I almost lost my job because I got 2 on it. And it was just a wonderful experience. It was the only ever year at the Windmill. They've never done anything since. And there's some film of it that's just popped up online recently.
Wow! I'd love to see that.
I posted it, and it's got quite a bit of virality in it. It's gone everywhere. But yeah, it was, all the workers were down there in their PR.
Oh, great time.
Yeah,
great
that was 2000.
But that was my first
2002.
Yeah, I think it was. And
I was in nightlife
I seem to remember playing that Azure track, which is it's Cassius, when the sun goes down. It's a trancey version of it, which was made by Paul Maddox actually, called Azure, and I remember playing that at the Windmill. But yeah, so my first proper residency was through Dave Pearce, which I'm so grateful to him for that, you know. And yeah, I used to come over every I don't even know what day it was now. I think it was on a Sunday. It was a Sunday. I'm pretty sure it was a Sunday. And they were crazy times. And I remember the first time I went there. Bloody hell, yeah! I turned up, and I'd had a nightmare to get there because I'd turned up really early to the airport because I didn't want to miss my flight, and because I'd turned up so early and I'd come from a gig, I went and sat by the gate, and then my alarm didn't go off, and then I woke up and I'm like, oh my God, right, there's nobody here now. What the fuck?
No one woke you up.
Nobody woke me up. Missed my flight, so I ended up having to drive down to. I think I had to drive down to Heathrow from Manchester to get the next flight, which meant that literally I was getting changed to because I was on at the end. I was on. I think Alex Ellinger and Ray. Do you remember
Ray Davies?
Obviously. Yeah, Ray Davies. Those guys were on early doors, and then I was playing at the end. And and I arrived just in time to do my set. And I can remember going out the back, and it was so hot that I changed into some shorts, and then did my set, and then of course they're all pouring me bloody yerbas and sambucas and all the rest of it, drinking all this drink, and then went into the Garden of Evil.
Garden of Eden, I was just about to say it. And what time did you leave there?
Well, so that's the thing. So sometime Monday afternoon, it was when Rich, who obviously you know very well from the ship, he was running the bar, wasn't he?
Yes, he was for many years. Yeah,
for many years. And those guys looked after me like a king. And they would allow me to, and I'm not right. I am not an opulent character in any way, but they used to encourage me to drink shots and smash them on the wall outside the Garden of Eden. And like every time I went in, it was a thing. It was like, right, shots, right. And then outside, shut the glass, like.
I used to love that place. The Garden of Evil.
Garden of Evil, yeah, the absolute Garden of Evil. And then I went from there to with Dan Prince and company. I stayed with Dan Prince and Rob Farrell, who used to be the photographer for Mixmag. Went off and got on a proper 2-day mission with those guys, and then went back to the airport. I think like Wednesday or something, went to the airport, got to the airport, and it was only when I got to the airport, I thought, oh my God, where's my passport? And then it dawned on me that I'd left it in my trousers that were in the back room in Eden. And then I had to get a cab from there up to Eden. And then wait outside, where you're banging on the door thinking, oh my God, I just need a cleaner or somebody to open these doors up. And then eventually, like it was siesta, like back then, I think siesta was quite a thing as well, wasn't it? It was like, it was proper, like there was nobody worked in siesta, and eventually I managed to stir somebody and get somebody to let me in. And then my trousers were exactly where I thought they were. My Marishis were, and I opened it. I was like, "Oh my God, I got the passport! Yes!" Went back to the airport and went to check in, and then they said, "Your flight's not till tomorrow." Proper Ibiza story there for you, yeah. Proper Ibiza story. This is also in the midst of all of that. We've been to space during the day. We've been to Bora Bora. We've done all of that kind of stuff.
Right, old pickle.
That's how my life was for years.
Yeah, I mean that was like my life was like that for a decade. In there.
Yeah.
But we had the winters there as well.
You see, I've never been in winter. Never been in winter.
It's different now, obviously, because people can work in the winter online and be remote and be one of these digital nomads and stuff like that.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Back then,
I've got you right. Yes.
There was nothing. You are the building site. You did a little bit of bar work if there was any bars open. There was very few people stayed in the winter, and the girls, bit of cleaning work, nothing. So you ended up getting in a worse state in the winter.
Right, just to like blank it out almost.
And then I used to remember coming into like the summer going, oh God, I'm not up for this, because it was
jaded.
There was nothing to do, and I think that was a part of where my drinking issues came from as well. Was the absolute doing nothing in the winter, and we just partied all winter.
It's very easy for that to happen, isn't it, mate? It's very easy.
You're around the same people as well, and they're all like-minded. So the ship, it was just debauchery all winter long, and I lived above it for a couple of years.
I always think when the shit were two words, the shit come into my mind, I always think debauchery.
Messy.
Yeah.
Oh, and we lived above it, of course. And funnily enough, the girl on tomorrow that I was talking to you about, she lived above it as well.
Right.
I still remember her sitting at the end of the bar waiting for Dirty Rotten Dean to come down, because he'd always take longer to get ready than anyone else. But yeah, no, there were great times, and just I mean, so that was early 2000, late 90s, early 2000s. Then
So that's 1998, and then the next year, madly, um, Sunday Central started doing stuff at Pasha. I mean, you can't even make that up, can you?
yeah,
On a Sunday night, we were doing Pasha, like playing with Andy Farley and E&M and Lisa Lashes, and that's when I first met Lisa. Was over there as well, you know, and yeah, they were bonkers time to think of playing, you know, tracks by Mauro Picotto, you know, some of the original stuff on the Green Nucleus label,
yep,
and
yep.
and all the stuff on the Blue Nucleus label, you know, playing
I remember the label as
I don't
well.
know, tracks by Fergie, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like Hoovers and Horns and all that sort of stuff. In Pasha, what on earth? So yeah, with Dan Prince. So Dan Prince was running it with Louis over there, and so that was 99. Then into 2000. Yeah, kind of like more of the same, and then I guess sort of out of the back of that came Garlands, I suppose would be the.
Of course, that was 2001, wasn't it? When it started
Yeah,
at the Bahia.
yeah,
No,
yeah. Kenya,
2002.
2002.
So,
Yeah,
I
2002.
remember it being to 2002. It was at Bahia, Kenya, Bora Bora. It did something at Space as
Yeah,
well. That
yeah,
white party.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, oh my
uh,
God! So that was
yeah, that was a
yeah,
good
that would
year.
have been 2002. Yeah, that was 2002.
What a year for
Wow.
Garlands.
I mean, actual wow, you know, beautiful, beautiful times, and such great friendships forged from all of that. Barry Max, one of my best mates still to this day. I think it's his birthday next week. Happy birthday, mate.
I actually meant to ring him this week because I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
try.
We're still with.
I'm going to try and
He's a
get him on
very
here.
reformed character. He's a very well. He's a little bit like Gremlins. Obviously, you don't. You know, if you give him water at certain times, he turns into a different person. Obviously, not water, but these days you have to really cattle prod him to get him to actually come out and have a bit of a
I
party.
said to him, "Is this a stupid question? Do you have an email address?" And he just laughed. And he went, "Just call me." I went, "I'm with the kids at the moment. I'll call you next week." And I'm meant to be calling him this week because I want to talk to him on here. I don't know whether he'll do it, but
yeah.
I know his son is doing so well as
Oh,
well.
they are doing so well. You know, with
the whole
everything that
brand.
they're doing.
What is it called again?
El Kiddo,
El
yeah, El
Kiddo.
Kiddo. They're
What
smashing it, yeah.
absolutely
And
amazing.
now he's doing the brunches at
Bambuca.
at Bambuku as well. Yeah, he's doing that on a Wednesday as well. He's still out there. He's still doing some great stuff. But Garland's was a piece of magic, an absolute piece of magic. You know, just to explain to the people who are viewing, you know, they were doing it. I mean, they used to do it in the back room at Eden, didn't
That's
they,
right.
for a little while?
Yep.
With Jules, they did it in the back room of Eden, and then they moved to Kenya with Dave and Huey as the residents, and then I used to come out and play on a frequent basis with those guys. And wow, you know, because our relationship came out of me playing at Garland's in Liverpool, and I used to play downstairs and play the hard stuff, you know, play the more of the hard house, and then they realised that I could play like funky house, you know, and then they were like, "What? Yeah, come on then." Right, nobody gets to play upstairs at Garland's, play funky house apart from Dave and Hugh, and they're like, "Right, come on then, come up and play funky house." And then I went up and played funky house, and it went, you know, back in the Junior Jack days, you know, the proper funky house sort of
I loved
sound
it all.
of
yeah,
that beautiful sound, and you know, the original like Lady Mojo and all that kind of stuff, and yeah, I started doing Kenya with them, and sometimes they'd be getting like 2,000 people on that little stretch
it
of
was
beach
amazing.
there in front of Casbah.
Utterly amazing.
Insane,
And
insane.
them flying Elvis in and they
Oh
crashed.
wow! I was there. Oh well, you know what? He hurt himself as well. He hurt himself. It's Buff, isn't it? Is it Buff? His name?
Elvis.
Yeah.
And there was Buff. There is Buff as well.
Oh no, sorry, it's not Buff, is it? Sorry, it's not Buff.
There was Buff
It's not
Wise. I believe.
Yeah, it's not
I
Buff.
don't know Buff Wise,
It's
but
I don't know.
Howard
Maybe I don't
Elvis.
know
Yeah,
what.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, he hurt himself badly
I
doing
remember
that.
him being. I just all of a
He
sudden.
styled it out.
Yeah, yeah. Can you,
He hurt himself.
only in Ibiza.
He bit the dust. He properly hurt. He just came in super fast. You know when you're seeing something happening, you're thinking, oh shit, that don't look good. And then he ploughed on into I don't know whether he hit the roof or what he did, but he properly hurt himself. Poor guy. But that was all, that was a piece of magic. And then as a result of that, then we ended up doing that white party at Space, where
Wow,
we completely filled the
unbelievable.
Space. I think that went down in history as like in DJ magazine as being in the top 10 parties of all time in Ibiza.
Yeah, I remember a lot of the workers went, because it started off really busy on the terrace, and we were like some of the first in there because we wanted to get to the boards, the Garland's boards. And because we didn't have any at the time, and so we wanted to get to the front of the queue because we knew they would be up. And the first thing I did was sprint through the terrace. I still remember to this day, and I saw the board. I'm like, "Whoop, and that's mine," because we pretended to be doing big lines of.
Garland's made me do it was the catchphrase.
Yeah,
it certainly made me do it. Made me do it on.
I've got one up here.
Way too many.
I've got
way too many occasions. Way too many occasions.
I'll take a photo of this because it's a Garland's made me do it sign above me here, and I'll overlay it in the video.
Magical times, mate. Magical times.
I honestly, because they did 6 free parties that year, didn't they? 2002.
Yeah.
It was up there with Manumission. Without a doubt. It was completely different products, but for craziness. And
well, look, the thing is with that as well, Dexter, is surely that was the forerunner to Elro.
Oh yeah. I mean,
it's the forerunner. I mean, don't get me wrong, Manumission as well is a bit is Elro as well, but all that crazy element of the entertainment, the dancers and everything. Amazing times with amazing people, and seriously, I mean, I think anyone can hear the passion in our demeanor for that event.
Yeah.
That was something else.
Unreal. I mean, people still talk about it with love and passion today. Anytime I post anything on a group or an event that involves any of those workers' parties, because they were workers' parties, weren't they? Really?
Oh yeah, and they were, but they were next level.
But it will go viral straight away.
Yeah. Well, and pre internet sort of times really as well, and certainly pre having a phone on your camera on your phone, it just wasn't really like that, was it? So that they were special times. And then out of the back of that kind of rolled into I started doing an event back in the UK with my business partner Tolly. We started doing Kiss the Funk, which ended up being very successful in the UK, and we ended up taking it to Dubai and Bahrain and Singapore, and we were doing it monthly in all of those territories, and Bali, and
you did Ibiza as well, didn't you? You did really well.
And Ibiza.
You did really well in Ibiza with Kenya.
Yeah, well, we used to Kenya. Then we did Kenya, but then we also did El Divino for a season as well. So we did El Divino, which was mega, which was amazing times as well. Loved it over there, and sort of all of that particular period ended up where from doing the stuff with Garland. So we're still doing some stuff where we're doing Kiss the Funk and Garlands together, and then out of the back of that we ended up doing Judgment Sunday with Jules, where we're doing the back room for a few years. So that's where we first met Mickey Slim and Majestic and Howard Donald and all those guys. They were all coming and playing for us over there, and that was the birth of electro. That was
wow. That was a period of. I mean, the Dirty Rottens were playing quite a bit of electro then. I mean, it
massively so.
Huge for a few years, wasn't it?
Yeah, electro was huge, and you know what? It's coming back, that bugger. Definitely, 1,000,000%. I can't believe for a second that sound, that big bassy sound, isn't going to come back. It's got to.
I was very surprised at how it just dropped off the face of the earth all of a sudden. It was like,
Yeah,
was it like this? It turned into this like jacking house,
yeah,
and then all of a
that
sudden it
yeah.
just dissipated a little bit, and
It did. I mean, it sort of, with the Kiss the Funk stuff that we were doing. We started in 2000 and back into 2003, early 2004, doing Kiss the Funk in the UK, and we were you know. It's well documented. We were the first people to bring Steve Angelo to this country, to the UK. We were the first people to bring David Guetta to this country. We were the first people to bring Axwell and Ingrosso. Then we were booking Angelo and Ingrosso together, so many of those kind of acts. We were booking all of those sort of
no wonder you wrote a book.
Afrojack. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
My word.
we were doing all, so we brought all those sort of things, sort of elements together. But where we had a bit of a stumbling block was those artists wouldn't come and play in San Am, um, which made it very difficult for us. And then when we moved to El Divino, they wouldn't necessarily come and play at El Divino either, because they wanted to do stuff at Pasha, and it was too close to Pasha, and it just became a bit of a political minefield for doing stuff in Ibiza and doing it to the same level that we could do it in the UK, even though we were still doing some great stuff in the back room at Eden, which we did right the way up till 2009. We were doing stuff with Jules, and that was a great chapter for us, and with Big Nick, and God rest his soul, bless him, who looked after us like absolute kings.
He was good at that, wasn't he?
He was the best. The hosts were the most.
Yeah.
Him, Jules, they were the hosts with the most. They really, really were. And we used to love doing the stuff with Judgment. And of course, with the Judgment stuff, I also got to do the main room as well, and do more of the trancey stuff. So I've always had a very close association with Eden, because they it's everyone's been very kind to me, Eden, and at those brands. So
Eden's always been very close to my heart. I mean, it was our local club. If you think about it, I loved Paradis as well. We did a lot of stuff.
I've always loved it.
We did a lot of stuff there with you guys at Tidy when it was Chris and Lee were doing it.
Yeah.
And we did the.
Sorry, I've completely skipped over that. My apologies.
Yep,
I've completely skipped over
that.
Tidy.
Was 2000
and Euphoria.
2005 and 2006.
2005. Yeah, 2006.
We did the back room, and you guys did the main room, and the back room was wild because it was all the workers were up there.
Yeah.
Because I think that was kind of the years where more and more workers were coming over, and it was just beginning to explode, and we had a really big following, and Chris whacked us in there, and it really worked. And we did 16 weeks, I think we were doing Tidy for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys were smashing it back then, weren't you?
It was great. We loved it. We were having so much fun.
I don't know whether you remember that we did Space together. We did
this. Yes, we did. We did.
On the terrace in 2006.
That was we there's so much has happened over the years. I think
2006, 2007. We were like Wednesdays. We were doing not all the time, but we did about 3 parties at Kiss the Funk on the terrace, and you guys definitely played.
Yeah, we did. We definitely did. I think I've even got some photos stashed away in the Ibiza Worker Group. And I think I might even have a poster, a picture of a poster.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh, they were great times.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when it was an outdoor terrace, wasn't it? It was it was pre putting the roof on it. It was just
yeah.
For me, that still stands out as being a pretty magical sort of time, really. Playing funky house on that terrace, playing.
You're a bit like me. You've been through these
brand new.
You've been through these phases of your career where you were into acid house, and then you're into. You've got these blocks, these chunks of career.
I'm a bit of a chameleon. That's the thing.
Because I've break mine down as well, a bit similar. Like I was first very much into rave, hardcore, warehouses, all of that. Then I accidentally stumbled across house music, literally by accident. And then I moved into that hard housey sort of world, and that was another part of my world. But then I moved to Ibiza after getting burgled, and that was a whole new world. And then it's
Yeah,
just like these
yeah.
blocks, different blocks, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
spans
I
three
think it's how
decades.
it should be. It should be like that. It should, you know. Some people have done the same thing all the way through. Whilst I've been doing all of that, there's been some people who've just played one style of music, and you know what? Great, that's amazing. What I would say to any DJs coming through is being a bit more adaptable and being multi-genre. It just stands you in good stead because things come and go, and as one thing recedes, the next thing takes back off again, and it happens all the time. And it's
Yes.
happening right now. Hard house is just about to become well, it's pretty massive now, isn't it? You
Yeah.
know, with the Hannah Lang and everybody, you know that's you know, and when I listen to Ben Helsley and all
Yeah, yeah,
those
yeah.
kind of guys, you
They're
know, all
playing
of that.
hard house, they're playing trance classics, and
Yeah,
it
it's mixed bag.
yeah.
It's multi genre. Even the likes of you know, James Hype's pretty flexible on that sort of front, isn't he? He can sort of like, you know, you know, he doesn't just do one thing, you know.
Well, this is what
Yeah, so
I mean. Dean always used to say, "Dirty Rotten," is that they used to go to a bar, and the owners of the clubs would go, "What would you play?" And they always used to say, "What do you want us to play?" That was
yeah.
a
That is
difference.
part of being a DJ for me. You know, I
Yeah,
don't know whether that's kind of
played
like a
everything.
very old school kind of view, but that's the world that I initially come
Because
from.
you
Is
are
that
so diverse. I mean, I'm finding out more and more. Because I obviously you're well known in the hard world as well. Very
yeah,
popular, and
yeah,
I saw you in
thankfully,
Garlands, but I
yeah.
knew nothing about the beforehand. Um, and yeah, no, it was. I think if you pigeonhole yourself in one genre, you're really limiting yourself, especially in Ibiza.
Yeah,
Well,
I
back
think so.
then,
I mean,
anyway. I think now it's just house and techno. I,
I guess so. I guess so. I guess so. I mean, sort of, you know, fast forward all the way to sort of like current day. You know, I'm fortunate enough from doing all of that stuff where they're all bearing fruit. Where you know, you've got festivals that just, you know, you've got Moon Dance that just plays kind of like house and rave. And I can play there because I've been there, and they know that I've been there, and that's a beautiful thing. The same goes with Rain Dance and all those types of events, you know. And Rejuvenation, which is another event up
yep,
this
yep.
way. You know, they're all, you know, that I can slot into that, but then I still play for Tidy Tracks. I still, you know, I still do all the stuff for Tidy. I still play, you know, I do the closing set at Frantic. And then very fortunately, I get to play at Clockwork Orange and play house music and rave. You know, when they've got two arenas and you know, they at the festivals where you've got 5,000 people in the rave arena with Shades of Rhythm and Alternate and all that kind of stuff. I seem to be able to
You
slot
were
into there.
sensible because Matt Slip Matt did the same thing. He played obviously rave and very
What
well.
a DJ that guy is, mate. By the way, what a
And
DJ!
because
What?
he started then playing house, um,
Yes, yeah,
and he started appearing at Strawberries. And when I spoke to Matt, he was like, "Well, yeah, I then started getting into this like uplifting house and stuff." But then he started
yeah.
mixing the two together, and now he can play across the board.
Oh, he really can, and he is technically he's just so gifted. He's just I just love watching him play. I play quite a lot. Obviously I do all the slip back in time stuff as well,
Mm,
which is
yeah,
amazing over
yeah.
there. Really vibrant at the moment. And I play for him with him for Housework, which is a brand from down south, which you know, now they're doing the Ministry and they're doing the Coco and they're doing all sorts of stuff, and just you know, watching him work, and sometimes I play back to back with him, and just like watching him up close, you know,
Effortless.
you get to appreciate that there are some people who are just naturals. He's a
It's
natural
just whenever I see Matt play, it's like
genius.
it's effortless,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
so relaxed and cool and just, but
yeah,
he's always a smile on his face and just, but it's just effortless. Or,
yeah. It
yeah,
is effortless.
yeah,
It is effortless. But I think the thing as well with Matt is that he possesses those the the skills that you need, where whilst you're doing what you're doing and it's going really well and everyone's enjoying that, he's thinking about what's coming in 2 or 3 tracks time as well. So he's not just like, it's he can play off the cuff, but he knows what's coming in a record or two's time as well. So
Yeah.
it tells a story, it goes somewhere, and that's
Because you guys did the
his.
terrace together at Kevin and Perry, didn't you? You did. There's you,
Yeah,
Dale,
yes.
Slipmat. Was it? Was that right?
I think, in fact, I think Slipmat's on the next one, isn't he? Oh no, he did this one as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Of course he did.
Yeah. So,
Yes, he did.
but I know
he did.
I've heard. I mean, Matt smashed it on the terrace. You guys smashed it on the terrace. I also hear very much about your set at Clockwork in the Seal
Yeah.
Pit.
Oh yeah! Wow,
That
that was a beautiful, beautiful experience. That really was.
There's a lot of.
Oh, thanks, mate. That's very
There was a
funny.
lot
Thank
of
you.
buzz about your set online.
Oh, thank you for that.
I don't know if you've seen any feedback about that particular.
I've seen a tiny bit, and
I wouldn't have brought it
it's
up
one of those
otherwise.
moments. It's one of those. Yeah, thank you. It's one of those beautiful moments where you're playing, and I was on reasonably early as well. And when I say reasonably early, it was a scorching hot afternoon in July, and middle of July, and then you're playing, and then you look up and you've got that amphitheatre.
It's amazing,
there,
isn't it? Yeah.
and it was a sea of people with orange or wearing orange, with orange fans, all fanning themselves, and and I kind of looked up and I just thought, right, okay, it's just they were just ready for a good time, and I played "We Are Family," the original Sister Sledge, and and then
you caught them right at the right time.
Absolutely right smack bang in the middle, and then and then we had just before the gig, before getting to the gig, I was with my wife Anna, and we were going back to the hotel, and we were going past like a shop that's got all those inflatables in it, and there was a seal. There was a big blue seal, and but it wasn't blown up or anything. And I bought it, and I went back to the apartment. It took me about an hour and a half to blow this bugger up, until it turned into this like 6-foot seal, and I kept it out the back of the
the tiny thing out the back of the
there's like a tiny little place where people could stand out the back. And I kept it out the back, and then when I finished my set, I played "Follow Me" by Alias.
What a tune!
What
a tune!
And then when it finished, I went and got the seal, and I put it in the pool, and everybody just went mental. Yeah, it was just like, yeah, the seal's here. The seal.
I've been in that pool a few times. I actually, weirdly, me and my friend Jai. You probably know Jai actually from.
Yes,
Scottish Jai.
Absolutely, do know Jai.
And Bjorn and those guys. Yeah,
absolutely know those guys really well. Yeah.
I found some photos of me and Jai at the ship party, that charity party that Loco used to do, all dressed up in inflatables and all that, in that seal pit pool.
Yeah,
I found the photos
brilliant.
the other day. I'll put them in this podcast.
It's the small details, isn't it, mate? For me, it's the fine details that make a lot of difference, and it resonates with people when you sort of do those kind of like magical little things where it just unites everybody. It's just one of those extra little things where you just and Sammy the Seal came in, and boom, there he was.
I mean, that's what we used to do at the slut party as well, just do really weird and crazy stuff, and it was a time where there was far more crowd interaction. There was no phones involved, and we always used to say, this party is about the audience. We want to be. It's about them. It's not about the Dirty Rottens. It's not about the DJs. And so that's why we used. I mean, at one point we had 30+ entertainers. It's just crazy. And then we had
brilliant times
on the boats. We used to do. We had stilt walkers, fire breathers, on a boat, you know. And
I was going to say these days, I don't even know if that's even
you wouldn't be able to do it.
allowed.
Yeah,
You couldn't put imagine putting people on stilts on a boat now.
we
You know, it's
we did it a lot. We
bonkers.
did it a lot.
We used to play vinyl on boats.
And do you remember?
How does that even work?
I remember how it worked. You remember the 1210s, the 4 round feet it had. We used to go and get sellotape rolls, big sellotape rolls, elastic bands, and sit them on elastic bands, right? So whenever it rocked, and that's how they played vinyl on sea, because it would just
on the elastic bands. Yeah.
One time we didn't have a cover, and it melted the record that quick. It was literally within seconds. It was that hot in August, you know, and we had to get the umbrellas.
I was going to say it must have been August.
And it literally warped the record. And
crazy.
But Dean was one of the first to start using CDs, so he started opting to bring his CD equipment along that he used in the manumission toilets. But I never forget, before Shipwrecked, I used to have to go to the ferreteria and buy 8 lots of sellotape and the
elastic bands.
And we used to have, it was in the budget, you know, and there's like, how no one understands what we used to do to play vinyl on a boat. But Dingo, who is our fire breather, who was literally just covered in kerosene, and he wouldn't get, and he used to be asking people for lighters, you know. Just like,
mental.
He could have gone up at any time, you know.
Funny times, mate.
Drunk as anything.
We've lived the life. We've lived the life. We've been very fortunate. And the upside of that as well is that we are lucky enough to still be rolling and doing it, and doing one more time as well, which Kevin and Perry, you know, which is absolutely ridiculously good. You know, it's just been so much fun doing those the last few years, and can't wait to come back in September and do that. It's just
I'm looking forward to it.
Phenomenal.
I'm looking forward to it. It's as I say, it's been a year of big change in Ibiza, with the universe opening and everything. But the entire island always goes through this change and progression, and I think you just got to reposition and reposition and reposition.
Roll with the punches.
You've got to, and I think that's why we're sitting here three decades later.
I know exactly. Well, exactly. It's about evolution, isn't it? You know, it's not a sprint. It's not a sprint.
Do you know, I say every year it's going to be my last event every year. Because you know how stressful it can get.
Never say never, Dex. Never say never.
You know what it's like when you've got a really busy event and people are doing your head in, and it's like, fuck's sake, I'm never doing this again. You know, I always get to that level, Kevin and Perry, when I'm just like outside, literally like, has anybody got a cigarette? And I don't smoke anymore, you know. And I'm just like, give me a cigarette, please. And then I'm never doing this again. But then, as soon as you wake up in the morning, you start reading all those comments, and people have had the best time of their lives, and and it felt like the 90s. And
can I tell you a story on that front, actually? Because the thing is that last year and the year before as well, I'd finished my set with Dale. We played Dale Castell. We played back to back, and then I went into the kind of green room, got a drink, and then came out of there and thought, I want to go and see what's going on in that main room. You know, I want to experience a bit of that. And I walked in, and they were playing. I think Seb might have been playing, and he played 3 drives on a vinyl. Three drives.
Yes, of course.
Grease 2000. And there was people clinging onto every sort of surface, and the balcony was all busy, and then the ice cannon went off, and I was literally transported right back to when I used to go in there in the 2000s, when I used to play for God's Kitchen, when we used to play for those guys, for Chris and Tyrone and what have you, back in those days, and Neil, of course, Neil Moffat. Wow, I'm not joking. It gave me massive goosies. And the thing is that I don't really get those too much anymore. I do occasionally, but it has to be something really special to make me
Yeah,
go,
it's
what on earth?
yeah.
And it's done it to me 2 years in a row where I've just been like, what on earth? This is
You could
just,
put
it's as
side
good as
by
it gets.
side. You could put the atmospheric Cream or God's Kitchen and that event side by side. It's just like, and it's great because the audience is a little bit older. But now we're finding that a lot of the older lot are bringing their kids as well.
Well, I don't think that's a
It's
bad thing
great.
because I see that quite a bit with like you get that at Clockwork, you get that at Housework, you get it at Our House, which is something that I do up this
Hmm.
way, which is Dale Costell's event. Tidy Rejuve, you know, you've got people who are
Same generation are
bringing their.
sharing the same experience for one of the
And the
first
thing
times
is, as
ever.
well, though, is that most of those, that generation, they've grown up with this as it's been from the womb. You know, this music is part of their DNA. So and therefore they're quite similar sort of people. You know, so you get a lot of really good people there. You get a lot of, you know, you do get that great atmosphere, and the younger people that are going there, they're not, you know, there's no attitude at all whatsoever. They're cut from the same cloth, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
I love that.
it's the future as well, because
Yeah, I
there
love
is
that.
this different side of dance music now where it's very much Instagram VIP, uh, which I don't really follow that much. I haven't really got much to say about it. Certainly don't
Mm.
slag it off because it's
Yeah,
not worth it's
I'll reserve judgment, and I won't. Yeah, I just think sometimes you've got to be very careful not to look like a bitter old so and
you
so.
got
You
to
know,
be, and
you've
also
got to kind of
these
like.
kids are having fun no matter what. They wouldn't
I think
they
they're having fun.
in a
They're
different
just
way.
having a different way. They're just their version of it is different to our version of it. But you know what? I don't want to sort of get into the into the bitter old. I'm still going forward. That's me.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I always think that the best days need to be ahead of you, not behind. You know, and it's up to you to perpetuate that. It's up to the individual to make sure that you don't stand there and mark time or even go backwards, or you just can't do that. You've got to just keep on moving forward. And yeah, at the moment, although I see some of that stuff, you know, with the universe and all the cameras and everything, that's just a different thing. But it's not going to look like that when we do what we do
Yeah.
in September.
Exa
It won't. It
no,
will not look like
I
that.
love the atmosphere is just, it's just incredible. Can I
Well,
ask you,
thank you for you and Nick. Yeah,
it
thank you to you and Nick for bringing that.
it was a
Thank you.
it was an after party idea.
Was it?
Yeah,
Was it?
kitchen after
Was
party.
it? Brilliant.
It
Love
was
it. Love it.
Nick and Brewer. You know
Yeah.
Brewer, Nick's
Yeah.
right-hand
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Cream, and, yeah,
Yeah.
it was an after it was like, "Hold on, it's the 20th anniversary of Kevin and Perry next year. Wouldn't that be good if we could do Amnesia?" And this is like for 7, 8 o'clock in the morning or something, you know, in the kitchen, and it just
Well, you smashed
a
that.
light bulb went off, and it's just like,
Yeah.
at first, Amnesia were like, "Really?" And then it's just like, "Hold on, there's actually a really good idea."
Well, it's something to behold. So I'm very, very, very grateful to be part of
And
that.
the
Thank
great
you.
thing about it is it's actually creating that week of September. Like we've now got God's Kitchen, which
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
bringing back on the Saturday. So we've got the Tuesday. It is Tuesday, isn't it? Yes, I always get confused with the dates. Thank God for Nick. So we've got the Kevin and Perry, then we've got God's Kitchen, but in between we've got loads of fantastic events as well. That you're doing one of them with Dale,
Yes.
with
Yeah. Yeah.
Dave
Yeah.
Pierce. Is that yes?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're
Absolutely. Yeah.
doing Shine as well with
Mm,
Paul Van
mm.
Dyke.
Oh, well, that'll
So
be amazing. Yeah.
it's going to be huge, you know.
That's a
So, but
big week.
it's a massive week now. So, and we've found that a lot of the old school are coming over and that's their like that equivalent of space
Well,
closing
yeah,
week.
well, it's like it's just escapism, isn't it? It's a week long escape. So
I hate leaving.
yeah,
Talking of leaving, what would be your?
yeah,
I'm gonna finally finish our conversation with the final tune. What? Sorry, what
yeah.
would you be your final tune of to end the night? would you have one?
Yes.
Now, this is a rarity. A DJ saying yes.
Okay, right. So recently I've done a house mix of Massive Attack, Unfinished Sympathy. So sometimes it wouldn't matter what style of music I'd play, I would play Massive Attack at the end of it. I'd do some kind of like big intro, maybe like a Martin Luther King speech or something, and then play Massive Attack into it. And if anyone doesn't like Massive Attack, they just need to like leave the building. You know, if anyone doesn't like Unfinished Sympathy, they I just think they must be weird. So and it always like brings the house down really. So that would be
I'm
my
actually
I think
more
that would be my
shocked that a DJ has given me a track, because when I ask DJs this, I always go, "Why did you always do this?" Because the DJs just look at me like that. I can't. I can't. Jules couldn't answer, and
well
he said something very interesting. Actually, he goes, "I haven't done the last set for many years," and
well fair
because
point, yeah.
because when was the last time you really started hearing that one more June, one more June? It used to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
all the time, because I think licensing was a bit more flexible. You could
yeah,
get
yeah.
away with it, but now it's 6. You are shut. You know,
You are shut.
you know,
You are
and you
definitely
don't get that audience. It used to be every club night, wasn't it? After a
yeah,
wicked night, one more
yeah,
June, one more
yeah,
June,
yeah, yeah, for
and
sure, yeah.
and Mark de Groot pointed it out to me in our last podcast, saying, "When did you last hear that?"
Really? Right, yeah, because I still yeah, so I still so I'm kinda known as a bit of a closer. That's the thing, is that, you
Okay,
know, for you know, I do it for a lot of places.
so
I do that for
you don't mind closing then, because some DJs do,
no.
don't they?
Well, the thing is, I think because I've been, you know, I used to
You're so
always do the
dynamic, though, aren't you?
wow. No, thank you. I appreciate that. But because I used to do the closing set at Sunday Central, that became quite a thing where people would, you know, they would stay for the entire set. They would, no one
Yes,
was
yeah,
leaving.
exactly.
I was very fortunate that people loved what I did, and you know,
Now that's the
as a result of
difference.
that,
That's the difference. A lot of
and they
people
would,
leave early now.
yeah,
You know.
they would be like, right, we're not going anywhere till you know,
Yeah,
they would just call me Bobby T.
and then
So
where do we go after? You know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, where's he going? You know, so from doing that, I then used to do closing sets for Good Grief and phew, oh God, I've played for so
Gatecrasher
many.
and people like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so many people where I do the closing set. So I always kind of have to have those sort of things where you've got something like that to play. So as a result of that, just like yeah, I think I did it last year actually. I did a remix with good friend of mine, Steve Hill, who lives in Australia, and I play for those guys. I do this thing called LHHR, London Hard House Reunion, down there in New Zealand and in Australia as well. And we did a remix of it with a guy called Dave Parkinson, who's the most amazing trance producer. So we did a trance version of it, and then out of the back of that, I did a much more housey version that sits very comfortably at like 126 to 128 sort of house version of the Massive Attack. So I've got those. I've got it so that I can play it at the end of a harder night, and I can play it at a house night as well. And of course, if it's a more Balearic thing, I just play the original, because
Yeah.
the original's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's very true. It's weird though,
wow.
because when I had vinyl, I used to recognize them by the sleeves and the colors, and
Mm,
I never
mm,
really digested the names of the
yeah,
tracks. I wasn't really like
yeah,
Vicky Devine is very similar. And when I was speaking to Lange the other day, I
mm,
checked out
mm.
his I can never say it. Discography, is that right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can't say it.
Discography,
Discography.
discography.
I got burgled. I lost all my records. And then when I went through all his tunes, I was like, I didn't realize he'd made that. I didn't realize he'd made that.
Right,
I didn't
yeah,
realize he'd
he did
made
some
that.
great stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I've done that with quite a few, including yourself, and I've had some surprises. because
that's good though.
yeah,
I like
because
that.
I went.
We can't know it all. You can't know it all.
But I didn't know that you'd made a lot of the tunes that I've been through. So I
Right,
was just like,
right.
oh, Rob did that, did he? Oh, right. Because I never, ever bothered looking at the actual producer.
Yeah,
Or the,
good tunes,
yeah,
isn't it?
just
Yeah.
put it on, have a joint with my mates, It wasn't about the DJ. It was just about having a mix with your mates in the house, having a smoke, and that was all we did. But we were never really, I can never really remember sitting there talking about a particular producer, or we would talk about the DJs that play at our local club, but it wasn't really that. Literally, that track, like the React track, Mrs. Woods.
Yeah, yeah.
I that was another Tony DeVitt, but I didn't realize that until later on, because it was just like, oh, well, we've got to put that one on,
Yeah, that was a great period of music as well,
wasn't it? Just and Tony DeVitt's music still lives on,
Oh, definitely, yeah, 100%
Wow,
it does.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so pleased I've had a DJ that's actually given me a one last tune, because I kind of dread asking it now, but it's in every podcast. But
Well, no problems. I didn't even hesitate. That's my weapon of choice.
Rob, you've been absolutely fantastic, and
Thank you. So have you.
I've
Thanks, mate.
totally enjoyed the last couple of podcasts, and it's been such an adventure back into the past, because
appreciate
a lot
that,
of
mate.
that I wasn't aware of. A lot of it I was, and it's good to relive some of that as well.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you
I'm going to be
in September.
Oh, without a doubt, I'll see you in that green room.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
I
do.
don't usually go into the DJ booths, especially the terrace in Amnesia. I just find it a little bit awkward, and it's just you bang your head in the speaker.
I like to be in amongst it.
I kind of stand away from everything, and a lot of the time at Amnesia, it's so hectic. I just find myself outside hiding. Anyway, mate, I will see you in September. And
all right, lovely, great to see you, mate. And I look forward to seeing you then. Brilliant, thank you.
Cheers, mate.